Let's go to Brian. This is Brian. Brian, you are up next, sir. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. I'm outside like on parking deck, so maybe a little noisy
Oh,
in
you
the
stepping
background.
away from the table?
Try to find a quiet spot.
Stepping away from the table?
Yeah.
Where you at?
I'm at Live Casino in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that where this hand is from?
No, this hand's from Parks.
Okay. Michael G
Yeah.
representing Parks.
Yep.
Okay. Parks in
Yep. Yep.
Philly. Yep.
Parks in Philly. So this is 10-10. This hand was played last week on a Tuesday.
Okay. We got to watch out for those police helicopters chasing you, Brian.
I know. Yeah, I know. I hear it. Yeah. I'm sorry. So Parks 10-10. This game was not straddled. Usually it's straddled, but like on Tuesdays it's kind of tricky. There's like a bunch of new players like to
Okay.
play, so
Yep.
it's not. So this hand is not straddled. We're 8-handed. I just moved to this table, so I don't really have a read on the villains in this hand yet. But basically, I have pocket tens, 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts.
I'm sorry. How deep were you again?
Like 3K effective.
Okay. So 3K effective, and you have 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts in the hijack.
Correct.
Okay.
And I open to 30.
Okay.
And the cutoff and the blinds both call.
Cutoff calls, small blind, and big blind call. Okay, so four ways, pot's 120. This is probably the standard open at 10-10, no straddle, I assume?
Yeah, it's usually 30 or 40.
Okay.
So flop is a decent one. It comes 6-4 deuce with two clubs.
6-4 deuce, club. Okay.
And I believe it was the 6 of clubs and the deuce of clubs.
Okay, so 6 of clubs, I'm going to put 6 of
Four
clubs,
diamonds.
4 diamonds, deuce of clubs. Okay.
Yep. So checks to me, and I bet 80 into 120, so 2/3.
All right, so Hero bets 80 into 120. And actually, I don't know if you heard me at the beginning of the show, the first caller with the guy with nines on the 7-4-8 hand. I think this is exactly what I was talking about, where people misunderstand texture. Like, this is not a check 100 spot. Especially, obviously, this is a single raise pot, so you can make a little bit more of a case for it because there are guys getting a price on the blinds. But like in a 3-bet pot, 6-4 deuce is not. So people look at low boards and they don't understand quite the connection and how it interacts with people's range. But you go 80 into
Right.
one.
It's not like a 5-6-7.
Yeah, and you know, question for sizing here, like whether or not you should size. I mean, again, multi-way theory, you could probably get away with going 40 or 50 here. Where I actually like to size up is when you unblock Broadway boards with overpairs, like if it came out like Queen Deuce 3 and you had Kings or Aces or something like that. Here, I could kind of see betting a little bit smaller. I mean, I'm never gonna be like saying that it's terrible to go 2/3 in a live sort of loose game. It's just something. But okay, so you bet 80.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people are calling with like any draw here, and also like pair plus straight draws, like when they're not supposed to, like maybe like the low jack would call with like a hand, like just like a 4 or something like that, like in these games.
Mm-hmm. So you bet 80.
I bet 80, and the low jack and the big blind call, small blind folds.
So low jack calls and big blind calls. Is that right?
Yeah, cutoff calls and the big blind calls.
Oh, it's the cutoff who call. Okay, I had it right originally. So the cutoff calls and the big blind calls. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So now it looks like the pot's 360.
Yep.
Okay.
So the turn comes pretty safe. It's an offsuit 9.
Okay. I'm gonna put 9 of hearts.
Hearts, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I guess the only thing that changes is 7-8, which was a gut shot on the flop, now becomes open end.
Yes. 7-8 now becomes open ended, right? Which might peel. Yes.
Yep. So I see no reason to really slow down here. Like, I don't think that's going to create any 2-pair combos or anything. Like, if I had the best hand on the flop, I should still have the best hand. And it's a pretty draw heavy board, so I should try.
Unless you ran into like pocket nines or something, but you know.
Yeah, occasionally something like that. Yeah. But anyway, So I continue for 220.
All right, so big blind checks. Hero bets 220. So again, sort of on the larger side. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A little under 230. Yeah. So Button thinks for a little while, and calls, and
Cut
then
off,
same with
right?
the
Cut off calls, right?
yeah cutoff, yeah, the in position player
Yeah.
cutoff. He thinks for a little while, calls, and
Uh-huh.
then same thing with the big blind.
Holy shit! So you get two callers again?
Yeah, which I was like, I mean, like, what are they both have flush draws? It's
Six
like I thought it
six.
was strange because like I have the 10 of clubs also, just sort of relevant in this hand. So
Wow.
I'm
So
like kind of confused, like how I'm getting.
yeah, this is kind of crazy. I mean, in the sense that you're so now the pot's 10-20 again for the podcast people. Hero opens to 30 from the hijack with tens, cut off, small blind, big blind call. Flop comes 6-4 deuce with a couple clubs. Check, check. Hero bets 80. Cutoff calls. Big blind calls. Pot's 360. Turn is the 9 of hearts. Big blind checks. Hero takes 220 into 360. They both call again. Now the pot's 1,020. What's kind of interesting about this is that it's kind of hard to go for three streets here. Like it's like against two people, sometimes you can take super thin value a heads up. Like if the river was like an offsuit queen and you were up against the big blind and he checked, you might bet again. But against two people, it's just kind of it's a rough spot to get three streets here.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
They call me with one pair. They may call me with one pair, thinking the flush draw missed. That's what. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then but when you're betting into two people on all streets, you just become stronger. And the river?
So the river is a very interesting card. It's an offsuit 10.
So 10 of
So
diamonds.
I run into top set.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
So at this point, like, I mean, I was kind of rooting for like a deuce or something like that. I felt like that would be probably like the best like river card.
Yep.
If I wanted to get like thin value.
Yep.
But like, so like a 10 here, like so the small blind or big blind thinks for a little while and checks, and like I'm like tanking for a while, just thinking like I'm just trying to think of a hand that I can get value from against two players. Like,
yeah. So let me look at this spot. So we actually had a cancellation earlier, Brian, where I wanted to have you guys backed up, like back to back calls, because there was another similar spot on the river where a guy made trips after he got check raised on the turn. And the reason why I thought the hands were similar is because even though I rarely think that check calling on the river is a good play at live to sort of low stakes, no limit, sometimes in very special circumstances where the board runs out, where even with a strong hand like top set, because it just sort of reduces the value of everyone having like one pair and things like that because it's overcards, the right play might be to check. I think the right play is actually to check here. I actually think the right play is to check.
I was thinking that because it's like if someone had two pair or a set, I think I would have heard from them on the turn.
And again, that's just because like you're trying to think about like what is calling you, unless the cutoff flatted you with like jacks and is gonna like flat down the whole way.
Like 9x of clubs maybe.
I mean, I suppose
right. Like if the cutoff is yeah, I guess that's possible, right? He was an older guy, so I could see him having
here's
an overplayer.
Okay, so I'm going to make the case for not checking and betting small instead. So instead of checking, maybe you go 250, 300. And the reason I would make the case for that is that now that the big blind has checked to you, if the person who's in position in the cutoff is not somebody who's going to bluff, then there probably isn't any reason to check. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I guess.
So I kind of actually thinking back, I kind of like this more as a check if you were first and you had the two people like in position. But now that like half of the field has checked to you, which is one person, maybe actually now that I think of it, I might prefer a small bet. But I hope everybody understands where I'm going with this, where you can end up with a very strong hand, but when everyone's sort of range seems like it's draws, and one of the draws sort of comes in a sneaky way, this is where we can come. I mean, the other thing, though, too, is if you bet small and then you get raised, are you going to release? You know?
Yeah, I was thinking it's probably a bet fold if I get raised, because I just can't see, like, any value hand that I beat, like, raising for value. And, like, it seems like a pretty rare spot, like someone bluffing multi-way.
It seems crazy if you were to say block 250 to 300 and then get check raised at the end. But so what did you do? Did you end up checking?
Yeah, so I ended up checking,
okay.
And the cutoff was like in the tank for like almost a minute. Like he asked me in the big one like what our stack was. So I thought he was about to like fire like a pretty big bet, but then he ended up checking back and giving up. Basically, he had a little combo draw. Like he had 5-8 of clubs.
Okay.
So I guess he was like double gutted with the flush draw.
Oh.
And then so like as soon as I was ready to table my hand like immediately, assuming that I won. And
Mhm.
then the big blind actually turns over 7-8 offsuit for a
Oh
straight.
my God! Wow. So the big blind
Yeah,
was going to check raise.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I mean, kind of. I mean, it ended up working out for you, but the issue is, if that guy checks 5-8 of clubs in position, then I kind of like a bet, right? Because he's probably taking a hand that has no showdown value, and he's got an 8 in his hand. Now he's got front door clubs, but he probably should bluff, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I didn't have strong reads on either of these players. Like, I hadn't played with them before, and I just moved to this table. Like, this was like probably second or third orbit at this table, so like, I didn't have like a super strong read on either villain in this hand.
I just got to. I mean, you just got to take a step back here, Brian. I got to ask you, what happens if you bet 300? This guy in the cutoff folds, and then the big blind goes to like 1,500 or 2,000. You know, he goes to like 5x. What would you do?
I mean, I think I might just throw up and fold. Like, I just don't see. Like, I mean, maybe he'd be creative enough. Like, if he's the one with like 5-8 of clubs to like turn that into a bluff. Like, if he, I don't know. Like, it just seems like such a.
The first thing that I would revert back to if that were to happen again, 300 fold check raise to like at least 5x. What is the first thing do you think that I think about in this spot if that were to happen? What do you think my
Pre-flop.
thoughts are? No, no, not
Or
necessarily
you just
hand
go
reading.
back in the.
Well, going back to pre-flop, yes, but I have a specific thought about this spot on the river and my hand. Do you, I'm thinking about something
Oh,
immediately.
well, I mean, I guess having the 10 of clubs.
No, I'm actually thinking about, is the villain possibly ever overvaluing anything that I beat?
That's what I was thinking. I don't see it because if he's going to overcall on the turn, like, how is he overcalling a set
Or like
like on
five
the
three,
turn?
5-3, something like
Right,
that. Yeah.
right, like something like that. Like, it just, I don't think it makes like that. Like, the board is just so wet and dynamic that I just don't think
Right.
he would be slow playing a set or two pair at any point in this hand.
And that's really the crux of having a hand so far up, right? Like as top set, as opposed to like bottom set or aces or something. You know what I mean? It's a situation where it's like, well, is he ever overvaluing anything? Now, let's say you had aces here and you took the same line and you took the same block at the end and then he check raised you. Well, then you know he can never be overvaluing anything that's stronger than your hand. I mean, you lose to everything that's overvalued, right? But with 10-10, it's like, is he ever overvaluing anything here?
Well,
You
that's
know?
I was thinking that like if I didn't have the 10 of clubs, right, then like 9-10 of clubs is still possible. That kind of like backs into two pair. Like I still beat that like one
That
hand.
that
I
is
guess.
that's a good point. You mean that he
Yeah.
might think that is like that you're taking some sort of crazy thin sizing that he's check raising?
With like some overpair, and then like so like that
Right.
that did cross my mind. Like but I mean,
That's interesting. Yeah.
right, I just can't see like him ever overvaluing worse. And like because he's the big blind, like he has all 16 combos of 7-8. Like it makes sense to overcall on the flop with a gut shot. He turns open ended.
Nick in the live chat says, I don't see this board being dynamic. Well, I mean, I guess we could look at. I mean, it's. I mean, there can certainly be a lot of offsuit high cards that can come, but I think that if someone's holding on to a vulnerable nut hand like a set or 5-3, there's a lot of nut changing cards, right?
Right, a lot of one-liners
Flushes, and live players hate the bad beats, so that's kind of how we look at it. But that's an interesting one. Nice check.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.